NASCAR has undergone a lot of change in the last couple of years, including adding new tracks like this weekend's venue at Gateway. But the biggest change has undoubtedly been the introduction of the next-gen car. Interestingly, anyone in the garage will tell you that the next-gen has been dramatically different than the previous iterations of the cars that teams worked with because it also came with a new set of rules and, more significantly, a new mindset based on much more stringent enforcement. Multiple teams have discovered just how stringent and paid a hefty price. This week, NASCAR took its punishment game to the next level on Chase Briscoe's number 14 team, with massive financial and points penalties for a counterfeit part. According to veteran broadcaster Dave Moody, this is just the beginning of the culture war, and things will get even uglier in the future. The next-gen car had been years in the making. COVID delayed its introduction by a year, as it was initially scheduled to debut in 2021. Interestingly, months before the car ever turned those first laps in the LA Memorial Coliseum to kick off the 2022 season, NASCAR made it abundantly clear to the drivers and teams that creativity, innovation, cheating, whatever you want to call it, would no longer be tolerated with this car.
Our message is clear in terms of the direction we're going to go, and I think if you want to use an example of, engines and what you normally don't see as far as any challenges around engines from an inspection process, that's the same thing we want to view as the car. So penalties will be ratcheted up. We're hopeful that we don't have to do that, but we have put everybody on notice that, this is a culture shift. This is why we went to this car as well, and we expect everyone to get in line. We're all going to learn together. But we've certainly had this part of our dialogue all the way through designing the car. But certainly everything's on the table in terms of playoff points, and we want to make sure that the penalty matters if we have to go that route. And again, we're hopeful we don't, but we've always got to be prepared.
O'Donnell talked about a culture shift and making the penalties matter. The sanctioning body has levied numerous punishment to the teams over the last year and a half. Brad Keselowski and company started the parade of penalties. Denny Hamlin got a win taken away. Kevin Harvick was vocal over safety concerns with the car and, surprise, received a penalty. And that was all just last year. This season, it's been much of the same. Hendrick Motorsports got caught modifying louvers and was penalized but had the points rescinded on appeal. NASCAR found another violation soon after. Notice a pattern? The pattern is NASCAR isn't playing around. And this week, NASCAR took its penalty game next level, handing out an L3 penalty, the biggest punishment to date to the number 14 team for using a counterfeit duct, which was supposed to be a single-source supplier part. Briscoe and the organization were each docked 120 regular season points and 25 playoff points, and crew chief Johnny Klausmeier was fined $250,000 and suspended 6 races. NASCAR Senior Vice President of Competition Elton Sawyer addressed the penalty this week and said a familiar word.
As we just said, don't mess with the single source parts. You basically put them on your car, go out and work on the things that's going to give you those performance gains that you're looking for. Good pit stops, good strategy, good hard racing, but working in areas like, again, what we used to do with the Gen 6 car is just not going to be acceptable with this car. And as we move forward with this race season and moving on into 2024, that's just not going to be the culture that we're going to be allowing.
Steve O'Donnell talked about a culture shift. Sawyer said it's a culture NASCAR won't be allowing. This week, veteran announcer Dave Moody discussed NASCAR levying the penalty on the SHR team during his weekly show on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio and said fans are witnessing a big moment in the sport's history, suggesting this battle of wills between the teams and the sanctioning body is going to get uglier before it gets better, and expects that there will be plenty of casualties.
But I'm really convinced that this is a pivotal moment in the history of our sport. There is right now a culture war that's brewing. Not brewing, at least the opening shots have been fired. Because, and I don't envy NASCAR, because they've got a 75-year tradition slash culture that, quite honestly, they played a leading role in creating, that is either going to come to an end or not. They've drawn a line in the sand with this new car, and they have said very clearly that the old way of doing business is over, done, finished. And if you don't believe us, what's the old saying? F around and find out.
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of what NASCAR's saying. F around and find out. And clearly there are people in this sport that do not buy it, refuse to buy it, believe that there's nothing wrong with the culture that says, well, when the cop's back is turned, it's okay to steal his wallet because, you need the money. So there is a culture war underway in this sport. And one side or the other is going to prevail. Either we're going to keep doing business as usual and just go, come on, it's NASCAR. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Nobody wins. I've had crew chiefs, I've had competition directors off the record, off to the side say, listen, dude, anybody that's winning in this sport, nobody's got a completely legal race car. Nobody. And it blows my mind that we're okay with that as a fan base and as a sport, but this culture war is going to go one way or another. And NASCAR is wildly outnumbered because all of the competitors have got their own ideas about the way they want things to stay, and a huge percentage of our fan base has their own ideas about the way they want things to stay. But NASCAR has drawn their line in the sand, and they say 75 years of this malarkey, and it ends here, and it ends now. And it's going to be fascinating to watch the battles and the skirmishes and the fatalities and the injuries that come from this culture war. And it's not, I'm afraid, going to be pretty.
It may not be pretty, but as Moody suggested, it certainly will be fascinating to watch and see how it all plays out.